What's going on, my fellow A-plusers? Welcome back once again to a brand new video. It is I, your host, Adam Perez, coming through with another DinoVator review, ladies and gentlemen, for Studio Giga. We've got the second episode that wind up dropping, I believe, last Friday, if I'm not mistaken. We now just wind up getting ourselves the English subtitles for it. So wanted to go ahead and check it out today. Also give you guys a review and let you guys know about my thoughts on this particular week's episode. And I got to admit, solid second episode. I thought they actually branched out a little bit more here in regards to what they did in the very first episode. Again, I don't know the seriousness in which Studio Giga is taking this particular series. Usually the finale, unfortunately, because it is in fact sort of an adult film industry, if you will, the idea of that last episode really being where the raunchy stuff is. Outside of that, I really appreciate the idea, at least, of seeing this type of effort that they're really willing to kind of put behind a Tokusatsu project. And when it comes to episode number 2, another solid entry here this week, one that I certainly appreciated. I thought the action in here is really what kind of stood out to me. One of the things that I mentioned in the previous week's episode was that while it still does come across kind of choreographed at times, I thought just some of the fighting styles, the choreography we saw in here, the usage of the weapons, I thought it actually really worked for this episode. Lengthier than I certainly was expecting it to, and then when you just see it kind of all put together in its length, it actually comes along pretty well. I even really appreciated the fact that there's a little bit of humor in this episode. While it certainly does come towards the end, it certainly did make me smile and certainly made me chuckle a little bit. So I'm glad that it's not taking itself completely too seriously. I feel like when it comes to Waku Saver, there was probably like no humor in it whatsoever, but they threw in some levity here for this episode, which when you're bringing a ton of action, a focus on Pink also in the character Miku, the fact that you are knowledgeable enough at the end to lighten it up a bit with a Dino Tops sort of, or I should say Dino Rex showing up sort of last minute, right, when he feels that everybody's depending on his strength to go ahead and take out this robot this week. The fact that he's literally the last man to show up and they've taken care of everything for him already, I thought was pretty great. Like the idea that he rushes in, does his pose, ready to fight, and then he's like, oh, wait a minute. And then just even the whole idea of like pushing Miku to the point of, we're going to start beginning training tomorrow. And she's like, but I just got my ass kicked, bro. Like I'm in so much pain right now. So I really appreciate just a little tinge of humor that we wind up getting towards the end of this episode. But for me, the standout for me continues to be Miku, the Pink Ranger in here, or I should call her DinoPtera, if you will, at this point. For me, I think what stood out was probably the very beginning of this episode, the idea to see that she's kind of questioning what's happening to her, right? She says something along the lines of, I know that this isn't a dream, but it feels like far from reality. Kind of questioning the idea of why her, of all people, was certainly sort of brought into the DinoVator stuff, right? She kind of questions, like, why would they even pick somebody like me? But I think she immediately sort of answers that question when she hears somebody needing help, and instead of turning a blind eye, she sort of just rushes in to kind of help whoever certainly at risk there, right? Probably foolishly, based off of the idea of her lack of experience, right? I think that kind of comes into play here in this episode. Also, the idea of not following up with your comrades, let them know what you're getting yourself into, right? Just thrusting herself. So I think if she was wondering why the DinoVator certainly picked her to be a warrior to go ahead and protect Earth, I think she automatically answered her own question in diving into the danger here in this week's episode. I will also say the lady that played the security guard, I honestly, when I saw her, I was like, wait a minute, is that the Vionator that we wind up seeing at the end of episode 1? She wind up having the horns, and she was giddy with excitement to go ahead and bring, well, I don't want to say giddy, she was kind of pissed off at the idea that they wind up finding Pink Terra, their last recruit, but the idea that she's got some sort of evil DinoVator waiting in the wings to eventually deploy. I'm not under the impression that it was this monster, though. If it was this robot, maybe I missed it. But I almost felt like there's something else that she's creating. I don't believe it was now that I'm thinking about it, I don't believe it was the robot that we wind up seeing in this episode. I could be absolutely wrong. But I thought it was kind of cool that they at least disguised her to kind of play this innocent security guard that needs help, that winds up bringing Miku into the scene. And as she winds up departing, the security guard, you quickly come to find out that's a Violator that really kind of set this whole situation up in an attempt to try and take out DinoPtera. So pretty cool planning. But if you guys think that the mysterious figure we saw at the end of episode 1, if that's the robot in this episode, is that what you guys think, or do you think there's something else certainly waiting our Dinnovator? Certainly go ahead and let me know your guys' thoughts. But yeah, ballsy to take on the robot alone. Just the little civilian fighting of her like karate chopping this robot and things like that, some of the sound effects that they have and whatnot. I really appreciated the action in here, and despite the fact that Miku does get her ass kicked, I love the realization like, oh, I guess I'm not as powerful as I thought I was. I guess that's where the DinoPtera sort of abilities come from. I do love the fact of seeing her and Dinotops arriving on time, or I should say Dino-Rex arriving on time to certainly fight alongside her. Really cool idea too, to have him have to charge up his Excalibur weapon, if you will. Granted, I know he can certainly take it out and use it however he wants to, but in order to get that supercharge, he does wind up asking DinoPtera in here to go ahead and stall for a minute, which I thought was pretty humorous in its own sense, in the fact that Miku was like, is this really how long a minute is? Yeah, girl, a minute can be a pretty long time. But I love the teamwork. I love that it all kind of came together. She certainly did what she needed to, even though she got her ass completely beat by this robot. I mean, she's literally crumpled on the ground. Even when she does wind up using her dagger and her shield, she still tries to put up her fight, but this robot is just a little bit too much for her. But again, lack of experience, thus why we're going to get ourselves a training session in next week's episode. So overall, solid episode, guys. You know, I mean, I kind of go in here with low expectations just based off of the studio that it's coming from, my questions in regards to its seriousness. You know, like, granted, I think this series might only be 5 or 6 episodes. A part of me was kind of hoping that it might be a little bit longer than that. But I would like to see what they can do with like a 10-episode story. And I would love to see Studio Giga sort of challenge themselves to really do a tokusatsu series if they can, aside from the adult theme stuff that they wind up doing. Because for me, man, as a fan of tokusatsu, I really want to see the ending of these storylines without necessarily getting boobs and ass in my face. You know what I mean? So again, not against it, but I come here for the story, and I come here for the characters and the designs and stuff like that. So I'm kind of eager to see how this series concludes, guys. But 2 episodes in, not too bad. I definitely recommend it. This feels very, I don't want to say, I was going to say amateurish. I guess there is elements of amateurish, but the effort that they at least put behind it certainly does get my attention. But guys, what did you guys think about episode number 2? Did you think it was as solid of an episode as I certainly thought? Let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below. And until next week, guys, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.